Good morning. It is Wednesday, March 18th, 2015. This is Tech Talk Today, episode 146, almost. If you go to jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar, there's no Tech Talk Today on the calendar today. I wasn't going to do a show. I said, you know what? I've gone too far. I've crossed a line. First of all, I only slept for like 2 hours. But that's not actually all that unusual. But I was like, I was feeling a little cranky because I'm like, I've only had 2 hours of sleep, and I'm looking at the news and I'm thinking, I don't like any of these stories, and I put my face on this show. How can I go do a show with my face on it that I don't like any? But you know what? Then after I got over that and I had myself a cup of coffee, I realized there's an angle to some of these stories that I wanted to take with you today. And so I was just going to just sit here and just shoot the breeze. But then I actually ended up finding some tech stories I wanted to talk about. So maybe we'll do that later in the week. So since we do have some stories and some things to talk about, we should probably bring in the biggest pontificators known around the internet. And that is, of course, our Mumble Room. Time-appropriate greetings, Mumble Room.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, guys.
Hello.
Hey, anybody in here watch Archer, the current season of Archer? Anybody? Nope.
No problem about the show this morning, Mr. Cranky Pants. We're here for you.
Oh, thank you, sir. All right. Well, I think Archer's trying to make everybody use the term inappropriate, and I wanted to talk about it. But since nobody's watching Archer, first of all, go watch Archer, as long as you have a dirty sense of humor. So while we're here, gathered around the table of 146, I spent a little time this morning reading through an interview with Tim Cook. I got up at like 5 in the morning this morning. And I was like, okay, what's the point of going back to bed? So I got up and I was reading the headlines, and I've been sort of avoiding these stories going on right now about this new Steve Jobs biography because I'm kind of done. It's just enough with Steve Jobs and all of it. But something caught my attention, and I don't know if it's maybe because I think Apple's got a good shot with the watch, and if they do that, it's gonna. The hype around Tim Cook is really going to explode, and of course the hype around Johnny Ive. But I was reading through some of the information that is coming out in this biography, and they talk a little bit about the handoff between Steve Jobs and Tim Cook. And at the time when they did the handoff, when they decided that Tim Cook would become CEO, Steve Jobs actually thought he was getting better, and Tim thought Steve was getting better too. And so Tim was thinking that Steve would stick around and advise him on all these kinds of things. And so they also go in more about detail I talked about a couple of days about Tim Cook offering to Steve Jobs Tim Cook's liver and all of that. So it was actually a pretty decent article, so I'll link to it in the show notes. After being a curmudgeon, and I thought, you know what, probably some of you are probably like me in the audience and you were a curmudgeon about the story and you figured, it's just another Apple puff piece. What I like about it is as we get further and further away from what made the computer industry great early on, and we kind of go into the next generation of the consumerization of the consumerization of the computer industry, which we're obviously in, getting insights on some of the people that were there at the beginning, getting actual true insights, real personality insights, and not like the crap stuff that is so often in the press is actually... From a history standpoint, it was actually pretty satisfying. So that's on Fast Company, and I'll link to that in show notes. I don't really feel like I need to go into all of it, but they had 2 really long pieces. I guess this biography must be a big deal because.
Well, the other thing you have to realize, Chris, is that this is Apple's pattern. So Steve Jobs' biography will be updated about every 18 months.
Right. Yeah, they'll have the S version in between. That's a good one. I like that. Hey, so yesterday, I think it was, my days kind of run together because it might have been Monday now that I'm thinking about it, but Nvidia was giving a great presentation. And, I can't remember the CEO's name of Nvidia. Maybe it's in this next story. This guy right here, Nvidia, let's see, they have a CEO, Jen Hung Hang. I'm sure I'm saying that wrong. But I think you guys know he's always usually wearing the leather jacket. He's talking up on stage about all of NVIDIA's latest chips. I think there are very few CEOs now in the tech industry that give a real good presentation and that have like a total like visceral understanding of the product. And so I'm watching him talk about this new incredible compute platform that's developing for like large scientific computations. And he's going on and on for quite a while off the top of his head. And he hasn't looked back at his slide for a couple of minutes. And he looks back there And it's a very, very abstract and yet very technical thing up on the screen. And when I say screen, it wraps the building. It is a ginormous, huge screen. And it's just covered in stuff. And he looks up and he goes, that's the wrong slide. And he's not going off the slide. He's going all off of what he knows about the product. And he's talking about how the memory works and about how the CPU has access to the memory and how they've solved some of these problems. They've been working on it for a year. And he gets them to back up. And he says, we don't actually, and I believe the way he said it in a way where you could tell people that worked for him wish this wasn't the case. He says, I don't prepare for this presentation ahead of time. I never have. I never do. I don't prepare for him ahead of time. And you could tell that bothered people, like that they wished he was up there giving a super polished. Until this moment, I had no idea it was unscripted. No idea. And he says, but the way I see it is we work all year long at Nvidia at preparing. And if we can't get up here and talk about it at the end of that year, then we don't have our stuff together. Is essentially what he said. I'm paraphrasing. And it was so genuine and so brutally honest. Like, this is a CEO who, in my estimation, really appears to have his crap together and really seems to understand the market that he's trying to address and the product that he is trying to sell to that market. And I was really impressed with his presentation skills. And of course, that all aside, also some new gear. And TechSpot has a review of the new GTX Titan X, which looks like a monster. So it's a couple of good days from NVIDIA. Did you guys pick anything up? Like, did you see they have these new super ARM chips, and they've got these ginormous. They said they have this huge scale compute cluster that they've modeled on neurons from the human brain. He said it's not like a human brain, but they were influenced by how the human brain works. It's just like NVIDIA is at a whole new level these days.
Nvidia is one of those companies like IBM for me that they research things and they do things that you kind of sit back and you go, okay, are you guys coming from 20 years in the future? Because it's just they're so far out there. Now, on the consumer products, we don't necessarily all get it, but we know that it's coming down the pipeline to us.
Yeah. And so speaking, this is a great example of what you just said. They're introducing a platform. It's like an SDK called Drive PX. It's going to go on sale in May for $10,000. But it is like a supercomputer car platform. So you buy this thing. According to the CEO of NVIDIA, he says it's 3,000 times faster than Dave, which is a car platform that was developed by DARPA, which is sort of a subpar performer. It's 3,000 times faster, he says. And so NVIDIA is they're looking at the technology and the computer systems going into cars, and they're saying, well, you're going to need really fast chips there. You want a fast UI. And their case for it is lag and not capturing input properly is a safety hazard when you're on the road. So, it's worth this. And so you spend $10,000. But once you spend $10,000, you can start developing applications in a system for this NVIDIA supercar platform, as they're calling it. So you're right, Q5. They're way out there on this stuff. And it's kind of neat to see him work a little bit. And the guy's great in interviews, too. And, of course, he's got to be talking to Tesla. He was joined by Elon Musk on stage. And they talked about autonomous driving. And again, NVIDIA has chips that they think that, the more powerful there, then the more safer the autonomous driving system is going to be because the better compute it can do, which makes sense. You think about it, the more horsepower your computer has, probably the safer it can be at driving a car. So could be a legitimate reason for NVIDIA to get, be very seriously focused on this. And so he has Elon Musk on stage with him. Musk said that having the right hardware should come first in designing autonomous vehicles, but that change is going to come slowly. There are currently 2 billion cars and trucks on the road worldwide, and global manufacturing capacity is 100 million vehicles per year. Legacy vehicles, he noted, will be around for a long time. Oh, man, I'm driving a legacy vehicle. Also, NVIDIA announced the Titan X, which is the one I just linked to the review earlier. It's a supercomputing in a box. It'll be $15,000. So NVIDIA's getting, they're in the broad range. They're in the high end for sure. And then, they're also in laptops and things like that. So Oracle's had a bad time, and I don't know why I wanted to pick on them. I can't. I don't know. Something about Oracle. I It's an old grudge I can't get past. And I would love to say it's because they have a dated software architecture. I would love to say it's because it's an old licensing model that's antiquated. I would love to say it's because they haven't fully kept up with the times or because their crazy CEO has moved on. But no, their long-term government contracts make sure they'll be suckling money off of you, specifically probably contracts with the NSA. I'm guessing, but come on. What other database software is going to manage all of that? No, actually, it turns out it's just the dollar. Yeah, strong dollar has been hurting a lot of companies. And so they specifically, Oracle, have stated that they've had some hurt in that because of the U.S. dollar. There's been a decline in traditional software licensing revenue as a result of that. So as they say, challenges remain for Oracle, and they view this quarter as a small step in the right direction because there have been some improvements. Shares rose 2.1% after the news because there have been actually some improvements for Oracle, like their cloud software offerings seem to be improving, although they're not making a lot of money from them, but people are picking up on them more. Net income fell 2.7% from the year earlier, but they're still making $2.5 billion. Gosh, selling database software. There you go. Anybody else have an Oracle bias? Am I the only one that's anti-Oracle? Anybody here want to? I mean, if anybody has a pro-Oracle stance,
Who isn't anti-Oracle?
Okay, I just don't know. Somebody seems to not be because they're making a lot of money. So somebody must not be anti-Oracle.
Yeah, I think that's all the CEOs going, we need a database solution. Hey, Oracle, I've heard of that one before. Let's go with that.
Yeah, I guess so, maybe. Yeah, the NSA, I swear, it's got to be government contracts where they really have a lot of stuff like that. There was a story that I meant to touch on at the top of the show that I should probably mention before we jump too far. What do you guys think of this? Windows 10, Microsoft announces will launch this summer in 190 countries, in 111 languages. They're going to work with Xiaomi to test it on their Mi 4 devices. What? My Xiaomi pronunciation? Xiaomi. Microsoft also, now here's the one, get ready for this. This is the one that surprised me. Microsoft has announced they will offer free upgrades to Windows 10 even for non-genuine Windows PCs to tackle piracy. So even pirated versions of Windows will be able to upgrade to Windows 10. Is Linux a little screwed by that?
No.
No? Okay. I don't feel like it is either, but that's a pretty... this is about as far... The only other thing Microsoft could do that would genuinely be a good response is make two versions, Server and Pro, and drop this 10 different editions crap and just say, this is Windows, and if you get it, you've got it. You're going to get the starter edition, because they're going to give... They say they're going to give Windows 10 out to piracy users, but what's probably going to be, starter edition? I mean, come on. Just make it one edition, and if you have it, you have it. But... Either way,
too sensible.
It is a pretty bold move by good old Redmond, and we'll see what happens.
Is there going to be a 32-bit version of Windows 10?
For all I'd imagine. I really haven't followed it too closely.
I'd assume because they're doing the ARM version.
Okay, well, the 64-bit version of Windows 7 at least, depending on which edition you buy, it actually artificially caps your memory.
And your CPU cores.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I say the starter edition's weak. Really, really commit to making a great platform for people to use, and don't put those stupid artificial limitations in there. That's something Linux will never do.
I know with Windows 7 starter, you actually couldn't change the default wallpaper. You had the option of 6 wallpapers that Microsoft bundled, and that was it. If you wanted to change your wallpaper, you had to upgrade to the Home Edition.
Jeez, that's crazy. All right, that's just crazy. Okay, all right, that's all I got for you. Like I said, kind of a light news week still. But we're sticking in there. Now, tomorrow, I might have Ange in studio tomorrow. She might do her weekly appearance. She's going to try to do it weekly. We don't, we're still working that out. But usually she was going to be aiming for Fridays, but I think she might be joining us tomorrow. So you still have some time if you want to get a Kickstarter in front of her. Go over to techtalktoday.reddit.com and submit your Kickstarter of the week, and I'll take a look at those tomorrow morning. And whichever one's kind of... If you like one, also you just want to vote. You don't even have to submit if you just want to go check it tomorrow when you wake up or something. Because I check it. I'll probably double check for the last Kickstarter submission around 8:30 a.m. Pacific time tomorrow. So that's kind of your deadline to get it submitted and voted to get it in front of us for tomorrow's episode. It'd be really great because we don't have any for this week yet. So that's at techtalktoday.reddit.com. Also join us live tomorrow, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. You can hang out in our Mumble room or just join our chat room and help title it and chat along as we go. And we like to have that. And don't forget the RSS feed, so you just get the show automatically. Because it's not just live. I mean, I do go to a lot of trouble to record it, and then I got this person that sits up in the studio like all the time editing. And that's all this guy does is just edit stuff and then publishes it. And why would I have him do all of that if I didn't want you to download it too? And then so if I really do all that work, the least you could do is subscribe to the RSS feed, right? Right? I don't know. Thanks to all of our patrons over at patreon.com/today. Really appreciate that, especially as we get close to Linux Fest Northwest, and my blood pressure goes through the roof as I think about all of the costs. So to help me calm down, why don't we reflect on something that is genuinely badass, a good old classic Nintendo commercial, just to sort of round out our discussion from yesterday. We'll see you back here tomorrow, everybody. Thanks for joining me.
Did you see the latest Nintendo newsletter?
Whoa, nice graphics. I'd like to get my hands on that game.
You mean you haven't played it yet? We can play it on my Nintendo Entertainment System. It's The Legend of Zelda, and it's really rad. Those creatures from Ganon are pretty bad. Octoroks, Tektites, Levers, too. But with your help, our hero pulls through. Yeah, go Link, yeah, get Zelda.
Awesome.
Intense.
The Nintendo Entertainment System. Your parents help you hook it up. The Legend of Zelda sold separate.